Most love doesn't die in a screaming match. It dies in 100 small moments where someone reached for you, and you didn't look up. Not in the big betrayal. In the ordinary Tuesday where the reach went unmet again, and neither of you even noticed it happening. You probably know a couple this happened to. Maybe it was you. Nobody cheated. Nobody threw a plate. There was no villain, and no dramatic last fight. The relationship just went quiet, and then it went cold, and one day somebody finally admitted they felt completely alone, even though the other person was right there, in the same bed, every single night. They didn't grow apart over some enormous rupture. They grew apart over dinners spent staring at two different phones. Over how was your day? Answered without anyone looking up. Over 100 tiny reaches that landed on nobody. And here's the part that really haunts people. When it ends like that, you can't even name what went wrong. There's no scene to point at, no moment to replay. You just sit there afterward thinking, but we were fine, weren't we? What actually happened is quieter and stranger than betrayal. 1,000 small moments of connection were offered, and quietly missed. And missing them, it turns out, can cost you the one relationship you were certain was safe. Quick thing before I show you the research. If you want the science of why you do what you do, the actual mechanism underneath your relationships, not the recycled vibes, subscribe, and I'll keep decoding this stuff with you. If it's not for you, no hard feelings, stay right here. Because this next part is the whole thing. So here's what's actually going on underneath all of it. A psychologist named John Gottman spent decades in a small research apartment in Seattle. People called it the Love Lab, just watching ordinary couples be together. Cooking dinner, half listening, reading on the couch. The boring, unglamorous stuff that fills an actual life. Not the date nights or the anniversaries, the random Wednesday evenings nobody remembers. And what he found is that connection doesn't get built in the big romantic moments. It gets built, or quietly lost, in the smallest unit there is. He called it a bid. A bid for connection. It's any little move one person makes to pull the other's attention, affection, or support toward them. Hey, look at this. A sigh you're meant to ask about. A random question. Mentioning some tiny thing about their day. And there is a single number out of that lab that sorted couples into two groups years before any of them knew which group they were in. And it had almost nothing to do with how often they fought. Hold on to that number. I'll show it to you in a minute. Because here's the reframe that quietly changes everything. When your partner says, "Hey, look at this," that is not small talk. It's a bid. And underneath the words, there's a tiny question they're really asking. Are you there for me? Are you with me right now? It can be disguised as the most boring sentence on earth. A comment about the weather, a half laugh at their phone, a sigh while they're doing the dishes. But the question underneath is always the same. And your answer was never your actual words. Your answer is whether you look up or keep scrolling. That's the whole mechanism, right there. The look at this is a question, and looking up is the answer. Which means the thing that actually keeps love alive is almost embarrassingly small. Love isn't kept alive by the grand gestures. It's kept alive by whether you look up when they say, "Hey, look at this." Gottman found there are exactly 3 things you can do with a bid. You can turn toward it. You look up. You engage, even a little. Oh nice, what is it? You can turn away. You don't notice it at all. Or you stay locked on your screen. And the reach just evaporates into the air between you. Or you can turn against it. You snap. Can't you see I'm busy right now? And here's what surprises almost everyone. The real damage usually isn't the turning against. The dramatic, snappy stuff is loud, but it's rare. It's the turning away that does the slow work, the quiet, accidental, completely well-meaning misses, repeated for years until somebody finally stops reaching at all. Now, that number I promised you. In Gottman's research with newlyweds, the couples who were still together about 6 years later had turned toward each other's bids around 86% of the time. The couples who had split? About 33%. Sit with that gap for a second. Turning toward the small stuff predicted who stayed together better than how much they fought. It was never mostly about the conflict. It was about whether the everyday reach kept getting met, not the dramatic stuff you'd remember, the tiny stuff you'd never even think to count. And this is exactly why it's so hard to catch while it's happening. Gottman described it like an emotional bank account. Every time you turn toward a bid, that's a tiny deposit. Every time you turn away, a tiny withdrawal. And no single one feels like anything. You miss one look at this because you're tired and wrung out from your day, and nothing visibly cracks. The lights don't flicker. Nobody files anything. But the balance is quietly compounding underneath, one micro moment at a time, in a direction nobody's actually tracking. That is why a relationship can seem to fade for no reason at all. There was a reason. It just never arrived as one big event you could point to and blame. It arrived as a slow, invisible drift in an account neither of you knew you were keeping, until the day the balance was simply gone. Now I want to be straight with you, because this is where people tend to oversell Gottman. You may have heard the claim that he can predict divorce with 90% accuracy. That specific headline has been fairly criticized. A lot of it came from a model sorting couples after the fact, once researchers already knew who split, not coldly predicting the future in advance. So hold that number loosely. The science isn't a crystal ball. But, and this is the part that genuinely matters, the finding underneath it is solid, and it has only gotten stronger with time. Modern relationship researchers studying what they call perceived partner responsiveness, basically, do you feel understood, validated, and cared for in the ordinary moments? Keep finding, in study after study right through 2024, that it's one of the most reliable predictors of a lasting, happy relationship we have. Which is the bid for connection wearing a newer name? Same mechanism, independently confirmed, decades down the line. So what do you actually do with this? Not a program, not a checklist. One move. Catch a single bid today, and turn toward it. That is the whole rep. Your partner says, "Hey, look at this." And instead of half hearing it through your screen, you put the phone down, you look up, and you ask one follow-up question. "Oh, what is it?" 20 seconds. That's a turn toward. That's a deposit in the account. And here's the part most people skip right past. This runs in both directions. Yes, start noticing your partner's bids. They're everywhere once you can see them. But also start catching your own turning away, the reflexive hum with your eyes down, the scroll that doesn't pause, the 1 second that becomes the whole evening. You're not trying to fix them, and you're not trying to be perfect at this. You're just learning to look up. Because 9 times out of 10, turning away was never coldness or cruelty. It was distraction and exhaustion. And distraction, unlike contempt, is completely fixable, starting with the very next bid. So here's the whole of it. It was never the big fights. Love is built, or quietly lost, in the smallest moment there is, the bid. The "hey, look at this." The sigh. The little thing about their day. Each one is a question. Are you there for me? And your answer is whether you turn toward it or look away. Here's the one thing to do before tonight. catch a single bid, and turn toward it. Put the phone down, look up, ask the one follow-up question. That's the whole rep, and it's smaller than you think. Because love isn't kept alive by the grand gestures. It's kept alive by whether you look up when they say, "Hey, look at this." If the science of why you do what you do is what you came here for, subscribe and keep one of these in your back pocket. This is education, not therapy. And if connection feels broken in a way that really hurts, a good couples therapist is the move. The Human Code. The science of why you do what you do.